Hi, this is Savannah,
And this is Brian from the Dorky Diva Show,
and you're listening to Starboars.
the best place for below average Star Wars.
The Dorky Diva Show presents
Why is this seat so much more comfortable?
the long-awaited sequel to the adventures of the Zolan Dart audio drama.
Have you seen the captain's datapad?
Trying to work, Murph.
Piloting the Zolan Dart by himself,
You do understand the details of this particular job, correct?
I've been on plenty of jobs like this. With you!
Reldar Sias returns to a planet he thought he'd left behind for good.
Is there a reason you didn't mention I was tagging along?
Hopefully having you there will make others think twice about messing with me.
Making new friends
Oh, you must be the pilot of the Zolan Dart, yes?
I guess I am.
and reconnecting with old ones,
Reldar?
Vera?
What are you doing here?
until past grudges resurface.
I'd be minding my own business if I were you.
Well, if your business wasn't being handled right in front of my face, maybe I could mind my own business. We have to leave. Now.
Why the rush all of a sudden?
We're in trouble.
If it isn't little Reldar Sias.
Hey, Yorick. Long time no see.
Roz already knows you're here.
Oh,
Look who decided to come home.
Reldar must confront his origin,
I must admit, I never saw this as being a part of your past, Softshell.
or let it define his future.
I will get what is owed to me, no matter the cost.
because what Roz is trying to do is wrong.
Says you.
My blasters, we're going to need these. Take that, Sleemo!
Who do you think you are?
The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, Episode 2, coming soon.
Welcome to Starboars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, the best place for below average Star Wars. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete,
And I am Jason Hondo Lee.
and we are back with a brand new episode of Star Wars, but also the first of our Ahsoka Series 1 reviews. So if you have not watched Part 1, Master and Apprentice, and Part 2, Toil and Trouble, of the brand new Ahsoka series, Star Wars live action, streaming on Disney Plus now, pause this episode right now, go and watch it, and then come back. Otherwise, you will be spoiled because we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty stuff. We're going to be getting very sweaty talking about it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're very, very exciting. Jason, just before we get started going into the details, obviously, I think just talk about how excited you were going into the series, and then sort of how the first two episodes have sort of matched or not matched your expectations.
Yeah, well, as anyone who listens regularly or knows me will know, Star Wars Rebels is a big, big part of my Star Wars life. And so when this series was announced, I was really, really excited. The character of Ahsoka from the Clone Wars, although originally I wasn't overly keen, like many people on Snips, over the years I grew to love her and just felt she was one of the best characters that's come into Star Wars before. So obviously when this series was announced, I was really pleased. Obviously I was a little bit gutted Ashley Eckstein, who created Ahsoka to all intents and purposes, wasn't going to be playing the character, but at the same time, I understood the decision why. And I don't think they could have picked a better person than Rosario Dawson to play the character, because not only is she a great actress, But she's shown the decency to, well, actually respect what Ashley had done before, and build on that, but also, work alongside Ashley in that, and seeing their relationship has been a big thing for me to have a bit of confidence in this series. And the fact that Ashley's still working very much with the Disney family and Lucasfilm just goes to show, she also understood the decision making. So for me, this series was always going to be fun. I always wanted to find out what had happened with Ezra. And anything that Dave Filoni does, I tend to love. So to bring these characters to live action, I was really excited by, and I have to admit, so far I've not been disappointed.
Yeah, I think I was going in pretty pumped for the series, and I think a lot of the TV spots that came out sort of the week leading up to August 22nd, sort of original release date of the show, really got us really excited for it. But the two episodes, I absolutely loved them. Really did blow me away. Thought they were absolutely excellent. So sort of, I had high expectations, but it sort of was even better than the expectations, which is quite a good thing. We'll start off by just reviewing episode 1, which was called Part 1, Master of an Apprentice, directed by Dave Filoni and written by Dave Filoni. I'll give a quick rundown of the episode, and then we'll sort of get to talk about our best favourite parts. So the synopsis is, Balin Skull, a former Jedi now working as a mercenary, and his apprentice, Shin Hati, assault a New Republic cruiser carrying Lady Morgan Elsbeth, who had previously been captured by Ahsoka Tano. The pair rescue Lady Elsbeth, who informs Skull that Ahsoka is searching for Thrawn. Ahsoka and Hu Yang obtain a star map to the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn and potentially Ezra Bridger before being informed of Lady Elsbeth's escape. Regrouping with the fleet, Ahsoka meets General Syndulla, whereupon Hu Yang reveals that the star map is still locked. Syndulla advises Ahsoka to obtain Sabine Wren's help unlocking the map. Just as Wren unlocks the map, she is confronted by Shin, who steals the map and stabs Wren during a duel. So that's a quick synopsis of the episode. I was going to go talk about the very beginning. This was very, very. I got sort of prequel vibes, Phantom Menace vibes of the way the ship sort of pulled up and then was able to dock, and then the two sort of Jedi type characters, Balin and Shin, sort of approach the New Republic staff before turning on them. So sort of I loved those vibes. It was really cool. What's your thoughts on Balin and Shin's sort of chemistry and purpose in this series and in the Star Wars galaxy?
This opening, like you say, and actually throughout all of the episodes, there's so many different things that harken back to previous films, and to, in particular, like you say, the Phantom Menace. And Balin and Shin, for me, what I like about it is obviously these are darker characters, but if you look at the way the characters are done, it's very much the master and apprentice. Balin is obviously clearly a very strong force wielder. I'm not going to call him Sith, and I'm not going to call him Jedi, because he's definitely in between somewhere. And Shin, obviously, I noticed that she's got the Padawan braid, exactly as Anakin had, and obviously Ahsoka had. So you've got that. Although Balin's not a Jedi, he's still holding on to some of the parts of what were his life as a Jedi. So it's quite an interesting dynamic. There's a clear master vibe with Balin, and Ray Stevenson just brings this character to life brilliantly. The more I saw of him in the episode, he's always been an actor that I've liked and enjoyed his performances. And seeing him in this, I was like, he was perfect for this role. I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses through the series. because I'm convinced there's a bit of a redemption arc possibly there with Balin.
Possibly, so it's one of those things. We know he used to be a Jedi, and we know he's now a mercenary. What he did in between during the Empire, I don't know. But he does obviously holds on to those Jedi, the way the Jedi do things. He has an apprentice. She wears a Jedi braid. He's very much teaches on the ways of how an apprentice would. There's very much like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan vibes from the Phantom Menace or here in this scene. They're using the Jedi craft from the Clone Wars. That's how they are able to dock in the first place. Probably the craft he was in when Order 66 happened. And there's a line later on, where he says it might, yes, you kill Ahsoka, but it would be a shame because there's not many Jedi left. There's and he's telling the truth there, and there's bits of that there, but he is mercenary now. Something else I haven't mentioned, actually, obviously there was like a mock-up crawl. So it's not the Star Wars fanfare and the Star Wars crawl, but there's a crawl there. And then the crawl cuts to the starship overhead, very much similar to the Star Destroyer from A New Hope, which was quite cool. But yeah, I think, these two dock and, they're trying to, I wonder if the New Republic had believed that the word Jedi, would have just got her and left without killing anyone. I think quite possibly because they probably don't want to attract attention. They don't want to leave a path of destruction. But obviously, the captain of the ship calls the bluff pretty early on. He's probably heard rumors. He probably knows that the only Jedi I know of is Luke Skywalker. Like, you're not him. Sadly, he probably thought it was just Imperials pretending to be Jedi. They were just going to get arrested straight away. But actually, there was something more sinister up here. They were indeed Force users, and they were indeed there to cause trouble. What was your thoughts on this opening sequence in them rescuing Lady Morgan Elsbeth?
I really enjoyed the whole vibes. When we saw the bridge of the ship, and seeing all the uniforms that harkened back to Return of the Jedi and everything that we'd seen previously of like the New Republic officers. Straight away, this was territory that felt like home, but also new. And obviously, the character of Morgan Elsbeth that we met in Ahsoka, not Ahsoka, in the Mandalorian season 2, very briefly. Obviously, we learn a lot more about her in this episode or these 2 episodes. A lot of stuff that had actually been discussed online previously is confirmed, and it makes it really exciting. Because again, it takes us back to something that was a big part of the Clone Wars and Rebels, with the Night Sisters, and the Witches of Dathomir. And I love those vibes that are given off. And, obviously there's more to her than we previously thought, whereas beforehand I thought she was just an ex-Imperial with links to Thrawn. Now there's something a little bit more sinister about her. So yeah, the opening sequence, the rescue, it seems strange. We've seen so many of the good guys rescuing the good guys in Star Wars. To see one of the bad guys being rescued, it sort of turned everything a little bit and, took us in a different direction for this particular story.
Definitely. If there's one thing this episode in the Mandalorian episode taught us, it's don't be a New Republic prison guard on a New Republic ship because you're going to get killed. Your prisoners are going to be stolen, definitely.
Yeah, and the whole sequence with Balin and Chin going through the ship to, and especially the sequence with Balin, it harkened back to me to like Rogue One, and also obviously A New Hope with Vader, which again just showed how strong and powerful this character of Balin is, because he's exhibiting some really, really strong force powers.
Yeah, and I think Shin just looks like she's got an edge about her. Like her face, her eyes, quite intense, but also quite quiet and like she's got a stare that's quite piercing, so she's looking into you. So sort of very sinister stuff going on there. Obviously after that we see sort of Ahsoka searching for the map in sort of a very Indiana Jones sort of Tomb Raider type sequence. What were your thoughts on that?
Absolutely love this. Obviously, there've been a lot talked about online when we'd seen the images, and that this was supposed to be a Jedi temple, and as we discover, it's not a Jedi temple. And obviously, there's still a lot of imagery there that's really powerful. Seeing the way that she goes down into the underground of the temple, with like the lightsabers, absolutely awesome. And like you say, it's like this whole Indiana Jones vibe. Um, and then obviously it introduces us to the fact that we got Yuang working in the background for Ahsoka. Um, and you've got a little bit of comedy there with their interaction, which I really, really enjoyed. And the end result of the massive explosion, it just made for a good adventure side of the thing, which these first two episodes have got a mix of everything that makes Star Wars and most of what Lucasfilm do great fun.
Yeah, for me, with it being sort of looking for a map, sort of just underneath the surface, reminded me of the One of the Souls from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And like I said, things like the way sort of the map comes up, and it's like in the center, but you've got to fight. Reminded me a bit of the Idol, which was quite cool. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I think Hu Yang, I think he's such a big character in these episodes. He's not just a droid who's there. He's like, he's actually like a big part of it. He's like Ahsoka's probably closest friend and teammate right now, and he's doing quite a lot. I think one of my favorite scenes is when he analyzes the lightsabers, and it again goes back to Bale and Shin being like stuck in the ways of the Jedi. When he says even Shin's is like made exactly how he would instruct younglings to do it. And obviously, you recognize Bale straight away. But a game without him, we wouldn't know about Bale that much. So that's how important he is.
Yeah, he's a character that obviously was only briefly in Clone Wars, but had such a big impact. David Tennant actually won an Emmy for his voicing work for those episodes, which goes to show how high esteem that character was already. I'm hoping that we're going to get a bit of a reveal of how he and Ahsoka have managed to end up together after Order 66. Did Ahsoka go and rescue him in order to help keep the Jedi alive, knowing that she'd still need him to teach any potential Jedis to build their own lightsabers?
I think definitely that'll be a great story to learn. If we don't learn it here, it'll be great in an animated form, in a comic, in a novel. I think it would be a really cool story to tell. Obviously, what were your thoughts on sort of Ahsoka and Hera meeting up for the first time in this show, in sort of the relationship there?
Yeah, it's again, Hera's one of the characters, again, one of my favourites from Rebels. And I have to admit, one of the characters that I wasn't 100% certain on the casting. But as the episodes have gone on, I'm like, yep, this is perfect. They've got it right. Hera is as I would expect her to be, especially more so in the second episode, where we see her and Ahsoka working more closely together. But obviously, the first meeting, it was yeah, I was half expecting it to be, the big reveal. We'd see the ghost, we'd see Chopper, but the fact that it was just Hera, and that was like, oh, actually, they're keeping stuff back to give us that excitement later on. And by the end of episode 2, we still haven't seen the ghost. So I'm like, yeah, they're drip feeding us what we want, in a very clever way, and I was really impressed with it. And obviously, then we get fed a little bit more information about the relationship between Sabine and Ahsoka, which sort of, again, I still don't get the idea really of Sabine being a Jedi. But I'm interested to see how it's going to progress during the season. But yeah, no, it's just seeing these characters come back to life, and jumping slightly forward. Obviously, when we eventually go to meet Sabine and we go back to Lothal, I was so happy to see Clancy Brown back as Ryder Mzadi, because Clancy Brown, to me, is a brilliant actor. He's been in nearly most of the modern Star Wars, including Mandalorian, Clone Wars, Rebels, and Tales of the Jedi. So to see him in live action as Ryder and Zabadi really, really made it for me. And I like the also little bit as well where they said about the young senator Jai Cal, who obviously previously appeared in Rebels, as a character that Ezra had come across. So I like that it was all still linking back to the Lothal that we'd grown to love throughout the Rebels.
Yeah, and I think the way it was designed, it was almost like the animation jumping off the page into live action, like the way the grass
Yeah.
looked and the way the city looked and the way the big road looked and the way that the big road comes to the big circle and it's like across the plains to the watchtower. Like all of it looked like spot on, as if it just jumped out the animation, which is fantastic. Um, think about Master and Apprentice. Obviously, I think there's a lot of Master and Apprentices in this episode, so I think it's the perfect title. Obviously, you've got Bale and Skull and Shin Hati, who we see at the very beginning. Obviously, you have Ahsoka still dealing with the fact that Anakin was a master. Ahsoka has obviously got this failed apprenticeship that she had with Sabine. Again, I don't know. Was she just training Sabine in sort of lightsaber combat and how to be a better person rather than like the Force? I think probably. I don't know. Probably. And the fact that Hu Yang makes a joke about like you didn't have any Force power. Essentially, is what he's saying there in the next episode. So yeah, so there's that. I think going back to Hera, obviously Mary Elizabeth Winstead cast as Hera Syndulla. I was a bit skeptical first. I didn't really see it, but like this episode, I think she's perfect. We see the leadership, we see the person who's not afraid to take action. We also see the motherly charm that Hera has in this, with the way she sort of speaks about Sabine and acts towards Sabine as well. So I think just perfect casting here, and you cannot really tell it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She disappears into the character, if that makes sense, which I think's what you want really. What were your thoughts on the map and how it looked and how sort of the design of the map, it being a sphere?
Yeah, I thought it was really clever, this, and the way it was done was perfect for the series. Obviously, previously, like with the holocrons, we'd seen like this pyramid shape. So to see this spherical device, I have to admit, when Sabine actually cracks the code and she starts turning it, I was thinking, oh, that'd be a great Rubik's game to have for the kids. I want to see those maps available to buy, all singing, all dancing. And again, um, with this, we get to see the arrival of Sabine. We see the tension between Sabine with Ahsoka. which is very clear. And also, obviously, Ahsoka is still trying to assert herself as the master, almost by saying no, the map stays here. And we know, because we know what Sabine's like. Sabine's very independent, which is why I can imagine she'd struggle to be an apprentice, because she's already achieved a lot in her young life anyway. So to go back into training is very different for her. So what she does. We also obviously we see the side of Sabine that with the long hair, it's almost like she's given up the role that she previously had in Rebels. And now we're heading into, she's trying to crack this code. She knows she can do it, but she wants to do it on her own. Whereas previously, Sabine was very much part of the team, joined in. So I think it's showing us as well the effect of what happened after the events of the last episode of Rebels. But yeah, the map was absolutely cool, and that's going to stick around in Star Wars for a long time.
When sort of that black sort of gooey ash first presented itself and she went digging in it, I thought, oh, she's going to pull a holocron out here. But then obviously it was a map, which was, again, fantastic. The sphere reminded me a bit of like the Jedi Fallen Order video game and the Zephyrs. So maybe it's connected to that down the line, who knows. But really cool nonetheless. With Sabine, I think, obviously at the end of Rebels, she's sort of the last one left on Lothal, and she's probably trying to fill the void left by Kanan, Ezra, and Hera went off to finish the war. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's probably why she turned to Ahsoka to train on the ways of the Force, the ways of the Jedi, because she had Ezra's lightsaber and she thought, I need to be trained here so I can be like them here and protect the people when needed. And then I think now obviously she's not needed, because I think in that Rebels monologue at the end, she says the fight never come to Lothal again. They were ready for it, but never came. So I think when we see her here, her hair's growing out because she's probably let go of herself a bit. She's living in the tower on her own. She doesn't really want to go to the Memorial Day because, again, she says there's people not here who should be, maybe, and she's thinking about Kanan, who died, and Ezra, who, for all intents and purposes, is gone as well. Zeb's gone, Hera's gone, so she probably doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, she's very much almost like a widow mourning, still in mourning, which I think is quite interesting for the character, because obviously Sabine previously had always been so full, get involved and everything, and for the way that she was avoiding going to the ceremony, because I think that would have meant that she'd have to face what had happened, and I don't think she wanted to face that.
Yeah, I think something
So now
soldiers' guilt as well. You look at those soldiers who survive. Often have soldiers' guilt for the ones who didn't come home. And I think there's a bit of that going on there as well, which you can see in her face and in her actions. But when Ahsoka turns back up, that's when you see sort of the light and purpose comes back into Sabine a little bit with this map.
exactly, and that for me, I think, is the turning point for this character. And I have to admit, obviously, I think I've said before on the show, and I've certainly said to many people, when I first saw the images of Sabine with the long hair, I was like, oh, it's not the Sabine I knew. And then obviously we saw the trailer where they actually showed that she eventually cut the hair to go back to what the style that we knew. I sort of thought, well, there's obviously something's going to happen in this series that's going to take us through that process, which is what they've delivered in the first two episodes. And now that I've seen it, as I've said many times before, I always trust Filoni, and he's definitely delivered with this.
What did you make of the HK droids, who seem to be Morgan Elsbeth's best friend's sort of core line of army?
this was brilliant because we've seen these characters, we've seen these droids before, because I know they were obviously there in the Mandalorian episode with Morgan Elsmith. But it made it slightly different because obviously these are proper assassin droids. You know, when these things go for what they want, they're really going for it, and they put up a fight. they're, they're droids that can take on a Jedi. There's not many droids that can take on a Jedi. I think they're really cool, and I like the fact that obviously Morgan Elsbeth got them as her muscle basically, and got them carrying out jobs that previously would have been done by a Jedi or a Sith. So they're really cool droids, and I thoroughly enjoyed the action sequences with especially like the fight with Ahsoka and then the fight with Sabine. Um, you genuinely thought actually these characters going to struggle beating these droids, whereas previously in Star Wars, the droids have been a bit of a butt of the joke. That when you've got the battle droids, Roger, Roger, and all that, you didn't feel the threat of those droids, but these ones definitely felt like they could be a threat.
Definitely. I think for me, the whole sort of bad guys here are very sinister. I know Morgan's very sinister. I know we learned she's a Night Sister, or a descendant of a Night Sister, which is, quite scary in itself. We see that the sort of Night Sister areas off of Dathomir, which we didn't really know about before, which is quite cool. Obviously, there's this planet at the beginning that Ahsoka steals the map from, and then there's also the planet later on where Morgan Elsbeth uses the map there, wants to get it back. So that's two different planets to Dathomir that have Night Sister archaeology there, which is quite cool. Obviously, with Sabine getting attacked by the HK droids and then running into Shin in the battle, what did you make of the lightsaber battle between Shin and Sabine? And sort of what were your thoughts on the end of the episode?
Yeah, this battle was really telling in that you could Sabine we'd previously seen fighting with Darksaber and different things like that. So seeing her fighting, although her obviously an apprentice, clearly quite a skilled lightsaber duelist, and then herself, Sabine was still very clunky with the way that she held the lightsaber, the way she thought with it. There was more. She was whacking in hope that she was going to get, whereas obviously Shim was more accurate, more skilled. I thought it was really quite a cool thing to see, and it'll be interesting to see over the time of the series if Ahsoka does teach Sabine more skills, and we see her become more proficient with a lightsaber. So for me, that was something that I really enjoyed. Because I didn't want to see Sabine suddenly become this expert duelist. She isn't what you would expect to be a Jedi. So that I think is clearly shown in this episode. Obviously, when the final blow goes through and you see Sabine fall, I was like, I know from what we've seen in the trailers that she's gonna survive this. So I was a little bit disappointed that they'd gone down that route because there was the lack of danger there because we already knew. I know there's been a lot online saying, all of a sudden they've sort of decided that it's quite easy to survive a lightsaber stab, whereas previously you would have expected them to die almost instantly once they got skewered.
Yeah, I don't know
Similar
about that,
to
but
obviously,
I've seen the Qui-Gon thing. It's like, well, if you remember, Qui-Gon was still alive at the very end of the Kenobi battle because he speaks to Obi-Wan.
yeah,
but he just didn't get help in time because it was a long time away, I think. So for me, I think, it's a TV show, right? It's not real. I think,
Yeah, no.
like there's two things for me. I think to start off with, I think that lightsaber that Sabine has been in that box under the bench for like years, right? So of course she's going to be clunky with it. And I think that was very well depicted in the show. And I think it's the opposite. So like Shin is obviously living like a prequel Jedi's apprentice's life, and so they probably go through drills once a day at least with Balin. Do you know what I mean? And that Jedi's her weapon. This lightsaber is your life, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say to Anakin. Like, do you know what I mean? I think like to her that's what it is. So she was better than her and was able to get her. But like for me, if you notice, she does the stab through, right? And she goes for like a second hit, like to finish the job, and Sabine blocks it before she falls to her knees. Like as she falls to her knees, and then the ship comes, and then she has to run off. And I think she went to finish. Shin went to after the stab wound, went to finish her off, and just couldn't get there in time.
Yeah. No, I have to admit, and like I was discussing it with someone today, where they'd said, obviously about everyone's been saying, oh, it's so easy to survive now, and I said, yeah, but then again, you think about it as well, like modern technology in our reality, almost exactly the same. We're like 30, 40 years since Qui-Gon was killed. Their technology would have advanced, so now it's easier to save someone like Sabine. So that's why I said, like you say, it's a TV program, but at the same time, you can see how it could happen. But people just harken back to what had happened in the past. But no, it was just something that I think because of the trailers, I was surprised with Ahsoka how much the trailers actually told us to a certain degree about what was happening with, or showed us more of the characters. So obviously, knowing that Sabine was going to survive this, that was the main thing for me. That I was sort of like, yeah, I know she's going to survive, but at the same time, it didn't. It then the next episode delivered more into. I think she needed to have that battle to then realise that she wants to learn more and she wants to be able to go on this journey with Ahsoka.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, it was a case of, she lost the map at the end of the day and opened it for them as well. So that's the big loss at the end of the first episode, is that you couldn't, and you tried to get it back and you couldn't. And that's how it ends, sort of, on that feeling. Any closing thoughts about episode 1 before we move on to episode 2?
No, just that, as an episode goes, that for me was a brilliant opening episode. As I say, for me, the cliffhanger was spoiled, because of stuff we'd seen in previously, but at the same time, it dragged me in that I want to find out how we were going to move on with this. So, for a first episode, absolutely brilliant. Obviously, directed by Dave Filoni, had Dave Filoni's fingerprints all over it. And the fact that he's written the entire series, I just can't wait to see where it's going to take us.
Yeah, I think, just a wonderful first episode, and an episode where we've seen a lot in the footage, but it didn't really give us any story beats. But like this whole first episode told us everything we need to know. Like there's a map; it's going to lead us to Thrawn and Ezra. So therefore, Elsbeth wants it, but also does Ahsoka, and it's linked to the New Republic because they don't want a second war. And we've got, it's got some really cool characters in play like Balin and Shin. So part 2, Toil and Trouble. So written by Dave Filoni, but directed by Steph Green. Obviously, Sabine Wren recovers. Obviously, informs Ahsoka of her findings. They're able to trace the droids that attacked her to Elsbeth's factories on Corellia. Seeking the star map, Ahsoka and Syndulla travel to the Corellian shipyards in time to see a massive hyperdrive built for Elsbeth's ship to travel to Thrawn's location in Peridea, a neighbouring galaxy. The transport carrying the hyperdrive escapes, but not before Chopper attaches a tracking device After arresting the shipyard workers as spies of the Empire, Ahsoka is contacted by Ren, who is ready to become a Padawan again and find Bridger. Elsbeth is contacted by Skull Haiti in Morocco, who is a former Inquisitor turned mercenary, who obtained the hyperdrive so they can finish building a ship, the Eye of Sion, and find Admiral Thrawn. So the beginning of the episode, obviously the end of the first episode ended with like quite a tense situation, and then we have sort of the opening of this one, Toil and Trouble. It's quite fun, sort of Sabine sort of saying, if you can get us the HK droid's head, I can probably look in its head and find out where it had been. Ahsoka goes to the scene of the crime. What I love here is, the animatronic Loth cats, which are absolutely fantastic, like the actual puppets, if you know what makes sense. Fantastic, but they're quite cute and lovely. But when Ahsoka arrives here, the cat's outside and won't go in.
Yeah, I know, this was cleverly done. This was really clever.
And then I think Ahsoka knows it's inside, and she strokes the Loth cat. You know what I mean? Plays it a bit, goes in, and is sort of talking them. We see sort of, if you notice the shot, Ahsoka walks in. There's a shot like that still shows the entranceway and the cat being outside still. And it's like snarling, it's not happy. Something's in there that shouldn't be in there. And obviously we see the HK droid drop down and Ahsoka knows it's there and takes it out. No problem at all. And the cat's happy. And Ahsoka gets the head. And then they take it back and they're analysing the head and it nearly blows up. And I love how, saying there's a risk it might blow up and Harrison does like, go for it. And I like Hugh Wang's saying when he says, you're a hologram. That's why you don't mind, because you're not going to get blown to bits if it does blow up.
Yeah, Hugh Wang gets given all these brilliant, almost one-liners. It's like he's the comedy foil here, and like you say, this was brilliant. And the whole thing where Sabine sat there trying to crack the memory of this droid, and you've got the wires are gradually starting to cook and everything. It is brilliant. I just love this scene. It was a really fun scene to do for the series, and just gave it a little bit of a light edge to it.
No, definitely. So what were your thoughts on sort of on the beginning of this episode? Obviously we learn that we need to go to Corellia, and then we're sort of off to the races here, and we learn about Morocco. It's not just Skull and it's not just Hattie who are in cahoots with Morgan Elsbeth. There's also this Inquisitor who's still got his Inquisitor lightsaber, who seems to be another mercenary for hire now.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed like the opening of this. Like you say, it's a little bit more light-hearted. The Loaf Cat, that sequence with Ahsoka was absolutely brilliant. And just goes to show, animals have a way of warning and everything. And Ahsoka clearly, as you say, she knew what she was walking into there, which is what makes her the great Jedi that she was. And then obviously, when it comes out that they need to go to Corellia, obviously, and Sabine's told she's staying where she is, so then we're going to get to see Hera, because she's going to meet Ahsoka there. And moving slightly forward, obviously, when they go to Corellia, I was talking to a friend. Obviously, for me, what we'd seen of Corellia was when Solo, which was obviously when it was Imperial, and it was obviously dark, dirty, and all this. And then the Corellia we see here is almost like it's a fresh. Everything's bright and sun shining, and you've got blue water, and it just felt to me like they were showing us here the Empire's gone, the New Republic's brought out a new era, which obviously we know isn't going to last, but it just brings back the hope that they must have felt once the Empire had fallen.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, what were your thoughts on sort of Morocco and Skull and Hattie's relationship? There's a bit where I think Morgan Elsbeth's a bit like the hyperdrive needs to be sorted out, and Scott's very much like Morocco complete his task. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's it's the whole Inquisitor thing again. That and obviously it's interesting now to see this ex Jedi and his, to all intents and purposes, Padawan or apprentice working with this Inquisitor, who obviously would have originally been tasked with killing them. And now, obviously, with the fall of the Empire, now all of these people have had to fall back to being mercenaries because their existence, their life as they knew it, no longer exists. So obviously, Morgan Elsbeth's now got this extra, she's now at the point of being in control. Um, and yeah, it's just interesting to see these characters that would normally be very much in charge are the servants of someone, or at least the hired help. Um, which obviously again shows what a very different time we are in.
What did you make of the shipyards, and what did you make of how that protocol droid sort of gives away the fact that yes, like things are not all that seems right in the shipyard, and Morgan Elsbeth has still been getting the stuff she wants.
Yeah, the shipyards, it was typical. We've seen it before with the corruption, and like we know, there was a lot of corruption during the time of the Republic. Then when the Empire came, obviously corruption was a big part of the Empire. Everyone thought once the Empire had gone, the corruption would go, but no, it's still very much there. And the Empire, there was always going to be some people that they'd had a good life through the Empire, so they're going to continue supporting it. Obviously, and we've got this weaselly sort of bureaucrat that they're dealing with, which is quite interesting. Obviously, later on in the episode, when they discover, what's been going on, he's one of the ones arrested. And I rewatched the episode because I'd already thought I saw him being arrested, but I don't think he was so much of Imperial. I think he was arrested more because of his incompetence and for the fact that what was going on was basically going on under his watch. And obviously, the whole sequence where they go into the control room, and you've got these characters. Obviously, you've got the protocol droids all working, and they come, and obviously they're programmed to tell you as they see it and as it's happened. So as soon as you've got someone like Hera start asking them questions, they're just going to tell her the answers because that's what they're designed to do. And you can see all of these human characters getting very nervous, and it was something that I knew these characters were obviously working with Elspeth because you kept seeing these side glances and all of this. So it was obvious. You could tell Ahsoka had started to work it out, and she was ready to draw her lightsabers when they were needed. So it was like they walked into the Viper's nest, but they were ready for when it was going to strike. And it was almost a tense sequence, but we knew that everything was going to work out in the end. And then obviously once they'd worked out what was happening with this hyperdrive, and then we see that sequence where Ahsoka jumps through the window, and it's just that for me, it was obvious she was going to struggle to catch it. So you see her running and everything. And then you've got Marot appears, and we've got the sort of mini battle before then he has to disappear. Which I then loved the sequence where obviously first of all we're seeing him fighting with his one blade, and then when the two blades opened, it was like that was the reveal that he was an Inquisitor and everything. That's where it was signposted. And then the beautiful way that he threw the lightsaber, which Ahsoka effortlessly avoided. But then when it came back to him, I don't know if you noticed, but the way that Ahsoka literally, she knew it was coming. She just gently moved her side and it shot back towards him, which again showed great skill that she still has and how attuned she is.
Let's not forget that, Ahsoka hasn't once she destroys the HK droid, like she like that's when he activates the second blade. And
Yeah.
she's like in phase because she's fought him because as before, and we've seen her win. And then she nearly has him defeated here. It's only because Shin rescues him is why he escapes. And I think he'll go back and he'll be telling Balin, like, when she comes, like, you need to take care of her because we can't.
Yeah, it's definitely, she is the force to be reckoned with. And I think, obviously, when we see her face off with Balin, I think it's going to be quite a battle to see, which I'm quite looking forward to. Obviously, we've already seen the two apprentices going at it, so we want to see the masters. But no, it's just for me the whole episode there, where we're discovering more of what Elspeth's up to, and obviously the reveal that she is a descendant of the Night Sisters, which I think as the episode goes on, once she's been rescued, and then she's got that reddish gown that she's wearing. For me, that was what signposted Night Sister, and it was brilliant to see these sort of characters being brought back in, and obviously, Toil and Trouble is taken from the Shakespearean. Uh, which one is it? It's Macbeth, isn't it? With the three witches.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that all the way through this episode we've got gradual reveals of what's coming on, and obviously the Eye of Sion. Although I've never read the Thrawn books, I believe all of that links back to the Thrawn books previously. I think it's Outbound Flight. It's it's linked to. So Filoni's bringing in the lore that he's obviously discussed with Timothy Zahn to bring more of the Thrawn story into canon.
Yeah, but then they also made it match the current canon, so that hyperdrive engine that they steal, is that number 7, did they say? Is that the 7th one?
I think, yes.
And if you notice, each one forms part of a hyperdrive ring, similar to what Obi-Wan Kenobi the Jedi use in the prequels. Because obviously the Jedi don't have hyperdrives. So imagine a hyperspace ring that size. They're obviously going somewhere like very far away and hard to get to. And I think I got that just by the design of it.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the design, it was like, oh, it's a hyperdrive ring, and it was like you say, but because of the size of it, they're going a long way. But it was, for me, it just looked beautiful, and obviously when we see the bridge where Morgan Elspeth is, I'd already sort of said to someone, because I'd seen that clip of her on the bridge, and obviously we've seen the clip of Thrawn walking onto bridge, and I'm convinced that that's the same bridge. So this is the vessel that they're going to use to go and retrieve Thrawn, and we're going to see him walk onto that bridge eventually.
Definitely. Obviously, while Ahsoka, jumps out the window and chases down the hyperdrive and battles Marok, Hera is in the Phantom 2 with Chopper chasing down the hyperdrive in the sky. Sort of what we obviously there's some awesome lines here. Chopper clearly says, "Shh, why aren't you shooting back?" She's like, "I can't shoot it down because it'll like destroy the port down below where all the people are." And Chopper says something back along the lines of, "Just do it," if you know what I mean. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And obviously have a bit of an argument. She says, get the homing beacon ready, the tracking beacon, and he can't find it. And he's like, "You've been going from your stuff." And she's like, "I haven't. It's like there, and it actually is there." And he's wrong. What were your thoughts on the entire space chase scene and on Hera and Chopper's antics?
I absolutely loved this, and it really was another one of those things that just made me love what what they've done with the Rebels characters. Obviously, Hera and Chopper have a long history because, as we know, Hera rescued Chopper from the Y-wing that had crashed. And obviously, Chopper's always been this cantankerous droid. He's much more mischievous than R2's been in the past, and he's a very different droid. And obviously, it was revealed at the end of Rebels that Dave Filoni provided the voice of Chopper. And I think what I found very clever with these episodes is all of a sudden, Dave Filoni's voice, for me, I could hear Chopper suddenly actually had, rather than beeps and that, Chopper had a voice that you could hear, and you could hear what he was saying. Which is for me, I suppose they did it with BB-8 and was it Dio in the sequel films. So it's something that they started to bring more into Star Wars, but I think this one for me really stuck out, and because Chopper is such a popular character, I'm looking forward to hearing his sarcastic comments as the series goes on. And it made the episode again for me because I was there chuckling. There he was going through all these tools and all these different things, and then Hera basically said, "Oh, look underneath there," and all of a sudden, "Oh, found it!" And it was just comedy genius, and it was just a very well written sequence.
It certainly was, and I love the fact after he got the home beacon on board to thank them, he sort of put his little arms in a. He was like getting his biceps out, Hulk Hogan style.
Yeah,
had his biceps out, which was really cool. Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff there. After all of that, what did you make of Sabine's message, and then Ahsoka going to pick Sabine up, which was very much the ending of Star Wars Rebels?
yeah, I was going to say this was for me was absolutely beautifully done. Obviously we now after these two episodes we know the journey that Sabine and Ahsoka are about to go on. And obviously, the threat that they've got now of Balin and Jin and Marot and Morgan Elsbeth. And like you say, when you see, firstly, there was the sequence where Sabine cut off her hair and everything, and it wasn't until a friend of mine pointed it out, and it's a scene that I've watched so many times in Rebels, I should have seen it. Obviously, it's almost identical to the scene where Kanan, just before they go to rescue Hera, cuts his hair and everything. So that you've got the symmetry there. Because as you're always saying, Pete, and I know we've said over and over again, Star Wars is poetry, and there's a lot of symmetry that goes through, and this was perfect because now we're seeing Sabine. She's about to set off to find Ezra, so she's going on a similar journey to the one that Kanan was going on when he wanted to go and rescue Hera, and also then. As you saw with as you rightly said, the sequence that we see with Sabine stood by the mural, and then she turns round and Ahsoka's there. It's identical to the end of Rebels. So, to all intents and purposes, these two episodes have brought us to what we've already seen as the very last episode of Rebels. So now we're moving into the story that we've been waiting to see for all this time. and I just think, as an introduction to this season, Dave Filoni and the team behind it have done an absolutely brilliant job.
Yeah, they certainly have. I like the fact that Kevin Kline come back on to do the score. They haven't gone anywhere else. So it's very much harkens back to the Rebels score, and there's bits of that in there. So far,
I was going to say, we haven't even mentioned the score, and for me, it's a beautiful. It's different to what we're used to in a Star Wars series, but I think it fits perfectly with Ahsoka.
No, it certainly does. It certainly does. Trying to think overall. Just any last thoughts about episode 2 and about the opening overall?
I don't. I think I've pretty much said it all. For me, it was done brilliantly. Um, it to me felt like the first part almost of a trilogy. This was setting the story. It was the two episodes told a self-contained story, in that obviously getting the map, finding out what Elspeth or Morgan Elspeth and her comrades were up to, and where the rest of the story's going, and then obviously all of the characters are about to leave on their respective journeys. So for me, it was the first part of what we were waiting to see, and I just can't wait for the next episode to see where we're going next.
Yeah, I think for me, my closing thoughts are, I thought legacy characters, Ahsoka, Sabine, Hera, and Chopper that we've seen so far, all executed perfectly. Just felt like watching them again in Rebels. Never missed a beat. The legacy locations like the Thal and the Phantom 2, again, never missed a beat. The new characters, Baden Skoll and Shane Hattie were absolutely fantastic, sinister, a threat, intriguing, new. Love them. I hope they release those guys as double package figures, because I'll pay for them, no problem at all. We've got to see some of the New Republic, which is really cool. These new worlds, the planet where the Night Sister temple was on, where she got the map, the planet where the Night Sister map room is, where it's just on the edge of the cliff. That map area is crazy and fun and cool. And the sinister threat of Thrawn looming in the background, but not actually doing anything, is quite sinister, and it sort of over arches the whole thing, which is really cool. Yeah, I loved how it tied into sort of the original trilogy, tied into the prequels. It's tying into the sequel trilogy a bit with the New Republic. Just lots and lots of cool stuff. It's tying into a bit of sort of the High Republic when you look at this unknown new galaxy called Peridia. It's just awesome all around. Obviously, the next episode, part 3, comes out on August 29th. That's directed by Steph Green again, written by Dave Filoni. So excited to get episode 3. I think the only concern about episode 3 is that we're only getting one episode, where getting 2 episodes this past Tuesday was like fantastic. So down to 1 episode, sadly. But that's the only gripe really, is that we're only getting 1 next week instead of 2, when 2 was awesome. And it definitely filled us up, and I was quite full with it. What are your hopes for episode 3?
I'm hoping I'm not sure how I want to see it move ahead. Whether I want to see it move quickly. I've got a theory that Thrawn's going to come into it about midway through the season. Whether they actually find him, or I think he's going to be held back a little while longer. But it's been quite interesting. Obviously, Dave Filoni said that he likes the episodes to be short, snappy, draw you in, give you an adventure, and then done. So it's going to be interesting to see what length the next episode is. I think we're probably going to get a shorter episode. But to see where it's going from there, I know where I think the whole season's going, but I don't know how it's going to fit in episode by episode. So I'm just really, really looking forward to going along with the ride.
Certainly, I'm the same. I think the next episode, I think we're probably going to get Balin and Ahsoka facing off. Obviously, because Ahsoka and Sabine can head to that planet now because they know the tracking devices told them where the Eye of Sion is, which the Eye of Sion's been finished orbiting that planet, which I can't remember the name of, but the planet where that Night Sister map room is on the cliff. So, exciting times there. I realise I'm calling it a map room. It actually doesn't have any walls, but it's essentially a map room, so I'm gonna stick to calling it that. Yeah, exciting times. Is there anything you've seen in this first episodes that you really want merchandise of? Obviously, I've mentioned I want a Balin and a Shin action figure. I also really want a Lothcat plush. Would be awesome.
I don't know at the moment. There's so many different fun things. Possibly, I think it'd probably be Balin's lightsaber. I'd quite like to get that. That would probably be one that I'd be tempted to spend some money on.
There you go, Hasbro, make the lightsaber, and Jason will buy it. I think that brings an end to sort of our reviews of part 1 and part 2 of Ahsoka, streaming now on Disney+. Any closing remarks before we wrap it up, Jason?
No, just look forward to watching the next episode. I did get up at 2 a.m. yesterday to watch it, and I suspect I will probably do similar next week because it's worth getting up to watch it. It really was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I quite like the fact that I can get up early in the morning and have watched it and go to work knowing that I've watched it. Although one of my work colleagues is finding it a bit annoying that he's having to get up so early so that he can watch it because he knows otherwise I'm going to spoil it for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't set an alarm, so I woke up about 4 o'clock, 4:30, and I watched it then. So I didn't check my phone, I just went straight downstairs and watched it. So I was able to watch it before I did anything else, so no spoilers at all, without risk. So I'll probably do the same again this Wednesday. Where I'll usually wake up around 4 o'clock anyway, and I'll happily do that, and then I've still seen it with plenty of time before I go to work. It's all right.
Yeah, I have to admit, I did think I can allow myself a little bit more time because obviously it's not going to be so much of an episode to watch because it's just the one episode. So I might give myself a little bit of a lie-in.
Or you can wake up at 2 and watch it 3 times.
There is that as well.
Who knows? Both ways are right. You choose which one you want to do it. But no, I think that brings an end to the episode. Jason, where can people find you on social media?
It's at Hondo Ling, as per usual. I think I got that right.
Indeed. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, or X as Twitter's now called, at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can find the podcast on Twitter, or X as it's now called, at Boz Star. And you can also find the podcast on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Star Wars Podcast. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or if you listen on Spotify, please leave us a top review. It just helps other people find us and it makes us all smile all day really when we get those top reviews. So thank you very much for doing that. We'll be back next week with our part 3 review of Ahsoka, streaming now on Disney+. Thank you very much for listening, and remember, always tell that to Kenja Club.
Hello, Star Wars listeners. This is Savannah Odit. You might know me as host of The Dorky Diva Show with my co-host Brian Balance. I am also producer of The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, which is a Star Wars-inspired audio drama that we produced over the last year. If you love stories about smugglers, courage, heroic characters, and maybe a few foes along the way, you should go to thedorkydivashow.com and listen to The Adventures of the Zolan Dart today.
Shout! We've got your pigs.
Were any of the critters harmed?
What did you do now?
I didn't do anything. I just freaked out for no reason.
It was nice doing business with you again. Maybe next time we could deliver something less... temperamental.
Now, what you call temperamental, I call fun.
Hey, is there a place nearby where I can make some repairs?
3 clicks south of here, you'll find a small spaceport. They should have what you need, as long as it's nothing too big.
Dynamic class? My stars, you don't hear about many of those still being space-worthy.
It's been in my family for a while.
She's pretty great. Any chance you have a hover cart we can use to load up?
I'll check out the HoloNet to see if anything new has come up in the sector.
My name is Sereth Khan. I am the chief here on Kamai. My people and I have been experiencing food shortages as of late due to unforeseen natural occurrences. We are looking to hire someone.
I say we take this one. The pay is great, and it's the type of job we're familiar with.
Welcome. You must be Captain Otoa. I've already sent word to Pack 2 to expect you in the next cycle or so.
You told him we were coming before we even accepted the job. That's rather presumptuous, isn't it?
Perhaps, though once I received confirmation that you were interested and on your way here, I couldn't help but hope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Well, that's not good.
Is that blaster fire I hear?
So you're the one.
Captain, it sounds like they want to do this the hard way.
I love when they got some fight in them.
This is bad. This is bad. We're about to have a lot of company.
I'll see you soon.